Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Darrell Brooks saga. On today's episode, we're gonna continue with Darrell's closing statements. He finally is gonna give his closing statement, and it's just gonna be gaslight and basically pity for himself. But first, I was to say thank you for watching. It was great to be back. I was reading all the comments. I really feel the love. And I would just like to ask you guys that do you guys like the video? You guys share the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed, because it seems like after all this, like after what happened with the channel, it dropped from the algorithm. Like basically, I got there's no views from anywhere else. You guys are watching it, and I thank you guys so much for that. But we need to we need to go back in the algorithm. So if you guys could like the video, I will appreciate it a lot. But and as you know, the channel is in the link to this video is in the description. Hey, shout out to Jess Antonio for the video, and let's get into it.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Go ahead, Mr. Brooks, your closing argument, please.
He sit down just to go back up.
Good afternoon. It's been a long day.
Wonder why.
First off, I'd just like to start by letting you guys know that it's a lot of information that you guys should be privy to, I believe. One thing that I believe that you have not been privy to is the truth of your rights and your duties, being the jury. The fact that you and you alone have the power, not well-prepared DAs with well-prepared and clearly rehearsed speeches and exhibits and a lot of theatrics.
I love that he thinks that because Susan and everyone else is prepared, that means that they're fake. No, it just means that they cared and they prepared to do their job. And all these exhibits is like, oh, well, that's evidence. They bring all the evidence that they could to prove that you did it. And theatrics, what, my guy, you talking about theatrics? It's
Frankly, not the judge. You and you alone have the power. You and you alone decide what is truth and what isn't truth. You should be informed that you have the power to nullify any law that you don't agree with.
Objection. Move to strike his statement.
Sustained.
Remember when he said when Susan said that in the last episode that she was gonna be petulant and talk about jury nullification at the first, and then he objected? Why are you objecting if this is true?
Objection.
I will strike from the record the last statement made by the defendant. The jury will disregard it.
Which is clearly what I've been saying. I believe that not only is it fair, but it's essential that you be privy to all knowledge, not knowledge that certain people feel that you should hear and shouldn't hear, disguised under the color of law.
That means that they need to know about your SO record. They need to know about the other battery record. They need to know about that. That's the truth.
The fact of the matter is, just like I did with my opening statements, I don't have a well-prepared or rehearsed speech.
Of course not.
Look in the mirror and say certain points to myself over and over again to make sure I have them right or anything like that. I've chosen to speak from the heart. In my opening,
I don't think there's a heart there, buddy. That's why you're failing to in your opening statement and in these closing statements.
And now I'm going to speak from the heart. What you won't hear me do is argue facts. And the reason you won't hear me argue facts,
it's because I can't. They're true. It's their facts.
is because I believe that it takes away from what should be recognized. The tragedy of this event, it should be recognized. Trying to argue facts of this, facts of that, I'm not gonna waste your time doing that.
Why? That's what
It's a
matters.
little emotional. I apologize for the long pause.
Okay.
It's hard to keep everything together emotionally. And honestly, I don't believe that I have any more tears left. It's been a hard year for the families, mostly, and that should not.
I really hate when it says mostly the families. It's almost all everything the families. Yeah, I get it that someone in your family is sad because you're in jail, but that doesn't compare.
Be lost on anyone. It shouldn't be taken away. I said it before and I'll say it again. It's a lot of people that are healing, that are attempting to heal. That opens the door to talk about forgiveness for a little bit. With every healing process, there comes a forgiving process.
He opened the door himself to talk about forgiveness. He's like, you guys have to forgive me. It's the right thing to do because whatever, but no.
Which you've been hearing from the prosecution, and not to take anything away from them, but let's call it what it is. You've been hearing a lot of rerun. Same things over and over and over. No different than when you turn on the radio and you first hear that song that you don't like when you first hear it, but they play it so much that eventually you start saying it, the words to yourself before you even realize it. And then you sit and you go, I hate that song. Why am I singing it? That's what's been happening. Rerun. Over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Attempting to make things stick in your head that simply aren't true.
How are they not true? They've been saying facts. They not only have been saying it, they back it up with evidence. So it's not only they saying stuff, they show stuff too. So
it's not an easy thing for anyone. Why do I say, what am I saying? I say, look at the testimony. The thing from the prosecution here has been intent. We all know what's been said. We all know the picture that's been painted. Even the prosecution said themselves. How can you look in somebody's head and say, this is what they intended to do? You know, for...
They can't. They say this. They cannot look into your head, but they can see what you did. That's what they take into account to know what you were thinking.
For a year, I've sat and gone through this, feeling so powerless, letting other people run with the narratives, sitting back helpless while other people paint a picture that has zero truth.
Zero.
I understand about healing myself.
So those pictures, those videos, those you running away, you trying to get an Uber, all of that is false?
Tragedy, pain, all that. A lot of it there's no need to get into. I myself in my own life have had to do a lot of healing. As a man with children myself, I find it hard to believe that anyone who's really had conversations with me, spent time around me, would think for 1 second that this is an intentional act.
My dude, I saw you for 3 weeks. I know what you think, how you think, and I can see you doing it.
I've never heard of someone intentionally trying to hurt someone while attempting to blow their horn. Well, attempting to alert people of their presence.
He's trying so hard to cry. You can see that? He's trying to use his hands. He's trying to cry. He can't right now, but he's trying.
Which brings me to more information that I believe that you should have been privy to. And I'm sure that the prosecution will beg to differ. But the fact of the matter is, the vehicle in question, make and model of 2010 Ford Escape, the vehicle in question, actually 2008, 2009, and 2010 of that model was in fact recalled.
Objection, misstatement of the facts, facts not in evidence.
Was in
Improper
fact-
argument, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Was in fact recalled.
It wasn't. There was a full inspection of the vehicle, and your vehicle wasn't recalled. It didn't need to be recalled. So, tough.
Was in fact a class action lawsuit against Ford
Objection.
for
facts
those
not in
model
evidence,
for
Your
those
Honor.
model vehicles.
Sustained. The jury will disregard.
Information that you should have been privy to, that you weren't allowed to be privy to. Why? I don't know. That information, malfunctioning throttle bodies,
Mr. Brooks, move on.
it's information that you should have been privy to. Vehicles that malfunction and accelerate not being able to be stopped.
Objection, that is.
It's
completely
information-
inaccurate,
it's
Your Honor.
information-
There's an objection. Hold on.
Strike.
Go ahead.
Move to strike statements by
Sorry
Mr.
for the
Brooks.
interruption.
They are facts not in evidence, Your Honor, and it's a complete misstatement.
Sustained. Strike
How's it a
the-
misstatement when I have the information?
You don't have any information. You just have hearsay that your mom told you. You don't even have the papers to prove it.
Mr. Brooks, move on.
This is information that I feel like you needed to know. You should have known. Information that was taken away from you. Why? To prove a case?
Yes.
Information.
Because that's not an issue. If you, let me tell you this. If he had any issue with trying to stop the car, that's the first thing that he would have said. That would have been his defense. He would have been like, you know what? The car didn't stop. I pressed the brake, I turned on the handbrake, and it was just kept moving. And I panicked. That would have been his defense. But he didn't go for that.
Information that you definitely should have been privy to. DA says the defendant has an utter disregard for human life. Utter disregard for human life. Not realizing that they're talking about someone that has children.
You having kids has nothing to do. Like, the reason why I take this so personal, well, not personal, but I don't believe it's shtick, is because you don't live with any of your kids. You owe child support for your kids. Just with the you didn't want to pay the oldest one because you said that he was old enough now. So why does he need to pay? But that was the reason. So don't come at me with I have kids. That's the reason why I care about them. You don't live with any of them. You don't pay for any of them. So you're just a guy. That's as far as you go with the parenting stuff.
Talking about someone that watched their children come out of the womb and be born into this world, cut the umbilical cord, held them before their mom even did.
And then you run away and never look back. So?
Moments that I'll never forget. And yet they say disregard, utter disregard for human life. They made reference to a rage, as if they were, or if this particular DA was right there, standing right there, as if this DA is a psychiatrist. I say to myself, what rage? What do you mean rage? How can you characterize that? How can you have the audacity to diagnose what someone's brain is? where it's at, what it's thinking, why it thinks the way it does. DA makes references to blocks of no one being injured, but then says it's intentional. You add that up with the supposed rage, the supposed intent to harm and kill, and it doesn't kick in until well within blocks. And maybe it's just me, but
I really don't like how he thinks he's trying to downplay what he did. He's trying to say that because they say one word, now all of that that he did doesn't make sense.
think if I was characterized as someone with this intent to kill and this rage and this anger, then why weren't people immediately harmed? Why would someone with intent to kill and rage try to alert people of their presence, repeatedly honk their horn? You heard a detective, if you recall, testify that the vehicle that he observed was not only honking his horn, but was not speeding.
That was at the beginning. That doesn't matter.
So where does this rage kick in?
When you start mowing people and don't stop.
Where does this insatiable intent to kill kick in? They speak as someone who's known someone for years. Which brings me back to the vehicle. What if the vehicle couldn't stop because of the malfunction?
Objection, fact, not in evidence.
What if the driver of the vehicle was unable to stop the vehicle?
Then you would have said that. You never said that until the end of the trial. So that's a fact, not an evidence.
Because of that fact, what if the driver may have panicked? Does that make the driver a crazed, or not crazed, a rage? Does that make the driver in a rage and intent on killing people?
Yes.
DA played a exhibit 17. On that exhibit, you don't see anyone struck.
One of the exhibits. In one of the exhibits, you don't see anyone struck. But there's like 10, 20 that you do.
With someone who had this intent to kill, this rage, as she says, if that was their intent, wouldn't they have taken the opportunity to hit as many people as they could? Target people, mow down people?
That's what you did.
Reference was made to this vehicle, the damage. Says this was all caused by bodies, but then later turns around and says hits barricades and other objects. You've heard testimony about hearing loud crashes and things of that nature, but the DA wants you to believe that this all came from people.
Not everything, but most of it. Like after you left the parade, you ran into some trunks and stuff. But before that, you can see in the Officer the one with the beard. You can see when he was doing the shooting, the car was already destroyed. So
Evidence doesn't support that.
it does.
So I go back to trying to wrap my head around everything that's happened in the last year. Praying for those families, praying for the people that tragically lost their life, because that should not be lost either. The fact that there was lives lost.
We know.
And all the emphasis has been put on the alleged defendant.
Because that's the person that did it. So we know that there was life lost. The community, I'm sure, is still mourning those losses to this day. But you are the person that we care now because you are on trial for that reason.
People have been disregarded.
They haven't.
Makes me wonder, does the DA even care about those people?
One, I think she does. Two, how does that has anything to do with you?
There's been prayers going up every day.
Here we go.
It's been suffering on both sides. It's been threats, hate mail, because of the narratives that's been put out there, the misconceptions that have been put out there, the lies that have been put out there, lies that have caused my children not to be able to go to school, to be bullied, for my mother to have to leave her home and stay at a hotel because she's afraid for her safety, because she gets hate mail shoved through her mailbox. My nieces and nephews to fear for their safety. And what's been equally hard is not only having to answer the questions from my daughter, who was 7 at the time, my baby girl, who was 7 at the time, is now 8, attempting to answer her questions that she's asking and still continue to shield her from what she sees, what she hears.
The truth?
Having a newborn son that I haven't even been able to meet.
Wow, you don't know your grandson because it's not his son. I don't know if he's trying to like mislead the jury here, but it's his grandson, not his son.
I haven't been able to hold, touch, kiss. Having to navigate everything that comes with this whole situation.
And look at
I'm
that.
still attempting to wrap my head around it.
He's trying to cry. He cannot cry, but he's trying to. He's trying to act for the jury.
I can't honestly say how many times I've sat in my cell, especially during lights out, alone, where it's just you, praying and asking myself, how could this happen? Not just for the people, but for everybody involved, the community too. How could this happen? The hardest questions you can ask is those that don't have an answer. No matter how much thinking you do, no matter how much you try to look at it from different perspectives and listen to other outside perspectives and listen to people that you trust and that you love, still coming up with nothing. But to think for 1 second, one question I never had to ask was if this was intentional. That's something that I never asked once, because I know it wasn't. As a matter of fact, it never even crossed my mind to even attempt to ask myself that, because I know it wasn't.
He's still trying. He's still confusing planned with intentional. Like, just because you didn't plan it before, it didn't mean that it wasn't intentional. It became intentional when you kept going. That's the truth. And that's what he doesn't understand. That he thinks that because he didn't plan to do it, that means that he's innocent. But that's not how it works.
And I know sometimes during this trial probably doesn't show. May be hard to believe, but trust me when I say no one outside of the families that had to go through this, no one's heart is more in pieces than mine. So again, I go back to all these exhibits.
Yeah, he wants to cry.
Go back to everything that's been shown, everything that's been testified to, everything you've heard during this whole process, this trial. And again, I say the same thing that I said earlier. Same thing I said in opening statements. I'm not reading from any paper, any books. Everything you've heard in opening statements, everything you're hearing now is from right here. Everything. You have the decision. You and you alone. All of you. You have the decision. I'm sure you've taken a lot of notes during this process. Some days are longer than others. A lot of movement in and out of the courtroom.
He has to remind the jury that they've been going in and out of the courtroom a lot. That's because of you. They don't like you because of that. I wouldn't like you because of that.
Various reasons. Remember the power that you have. Don't for 1 second let it be taken away from you. I can never understand the position of sitting on a jury in something of this magnitude. So I'm sure there's a lot of pressure. I pray that the right decision is made.
The right decision was made.
Right decision.
Mm-hmm. They did it.
It's almost like that message. Well, not message, but that writing. When we're in our vehicles and we have that rearview mirror and it said things are closer than they appear. But it's also another way of saying sometimes things aren't as they appear. I can't speak for anyone else, but me, myself, I believe in Jesus Christ. That's how I was raised. That's what I believe in. None of us are perfect.
That gives you the right to take other people's life?
I try every day to make sure that I acknowledge him. That's why every time I step in this courtroom, I have my Bible with me everywhere I go.
I'm pretty sure that's not his Bible. I'm pretty sure that's just a jail Bible that he is hoarding for himself.
I even read it on breaks, recesses. This is not something that started at the beginning of this incident. This is something that has been instilled in me since I came out of the womb. This is how my family lives their life. This is how we was raised.
No, my guy. No. Simply, that's not how it works. You cannot say that, but then have a background of all these bad things that you did. You've been lying. You've been stealing. You've been doing all this stuff with women. And I don't think the Bible allows you to do that. So that's not how you live. I'm sorry, but I don't buy that.
For whatever mistakes that I myself have made in my life, I've made peace with God.
Oof. This as well. He's like, everything that I did, everything wrong that I did, it doesn't matter. I already made peace, so I'm good.
Made peace. I'm happy to say that my conscience is clear.
His conscience is clear. And now he has no tears, but he has to put the paper in. Oh my god. I thought you didn't have any tears left.
And because I believe, I trust him with my life.
No tears. Just dry paper.
Nobody will never know why it was his will for this to happen. A lot of lives were changed that day, mine included.
Yep.
God's way is not our own. And no matter how much sometimes we want to question, we have to have faith. Look inside yourself. Look inside yourself and make the right decision. Look inside your heart. You have everything in your hands now. Do what's right. Don't let the smoke and mirrors take away your power. Don't let the theatrics take away your power. Each and every one of you has a decision. Do what's right. Make the right decision. It's hard to think about my younger kids getting older and at some point having to explain everything to them. Kids don't stay kids forever. And nowadays, kids is frankly a lot smarter than we were when we was kids. I'll tell you that much.
Oh.
I got a letter the other day from my youngest daughter. And she's still learning cursive right now, so she's the best writer when it comes to cursive. She'd rather print. She said, Dad, and this is from the letter. She said, Dad, why are people saying all these mean things about you?
Then you just have to say, because they're true, daughter. Because they're true. I did all that.
haven't read the rest of that letter yet.
Okay. So?
The rest of that sentence said, "That's not the dad I know."
So you did read the rest of the letter. Why would you leave a letter without reading? It's not that long. It's from a kid. So you did or you didn't?
Throughout this year, I've been called a lot of things. And to be fair, I am a lot of things.
Yes, yes you are.
A murderer is not one of them.
You are.
Never has been, never will be. So before I close my statements, I just want to say, open your hearts. Go inside yourself when making this decision. Have no fear. Pray and do what you know is right. What you know is right. Think about everything you've heard. Think about everything you haven't been privileged to hear. Think about the whole entire picture. And above everything, whatever you decide, make sure you yourself can live with it.
I'm sure they can live with it. They're fine.
Make sure you can live with it. That's the magnitude of the power that you have. Just like this tissue is in my hand, this is everything.
The tissue defense. I really don't like the tissue defense. It's like, because just like I have this tissue with completely dry tissue in my hand, that means that you guys also have my fate in your hands, which is true, and they're gonna crush you between their hands.
You have everything. Be at peace with what you decide. Have no regrets. Don't let this decision weigh on you after it's over. Hopefully we got a lot of living ahead of us. Lord willing. Don't look back and kick yourself in the behind. It's been about 3 weeks with you. And it took a lot of courage and a lot of guts to pause your life for this. To put important things on hold.
It wasn't like they wanted to be there. They were picked. So it doesn't matter.
To basically stop your life. You should be commended for being able to sit up here with this amount of pressure. I want you guys to know that's not lost on me. I'm sure it's a lot. And you all should be commended because it took courage to do this. I don't know, but I would bet a lot of people wouldn't want to be sitting in your position right now. And you guys had the guts to do it. Thank you for that. Thank you for taking pretty much a month and setting it to the side for this. I know it's probably not proper, but you guys deserve a round of applause if you could get one.
What he wanted at that point, he wanted the courtroom to start going, and then the whole courtroom starts clapping. That's what he wanted. You're not in a movie.
Thank you guys sincerely, and I know, and I have faith, and I trust that you guys know what's right, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think it's fair to just say guys, but I believe in your heart you know what's right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So I give that closing statements a 0 out of 10. He didn't said anything about the real evidence. He tried to play on pity. He tried to play on the jury nullification. He tried to play on the car being. He didn't say anything basically. He could have just skipped his closing statements.
Before I give the state an opportunity to present rebuttal, please stand for a minute. So please stand. All right, have a seat, please. And Attorney Opper, I did time both closings. You have 13:28 left.
Thank you, Judge. I don't think that'll be an issue. Folks, let me just say this. Mr. Brooks stands here and professes to speak to you from his heart. He plays on your sympathy. He talks about his children. He talks about the hardships that he's encountered and his family's encountered. And he brushes over the loss to the community. He wants to talk about how he's never held his newborn son. Never once acknowledges the Sorensen family, the Owen family, the Duran family, the Hospital family, the Kulik family, the Sparks family. Never once. It's nice that Mr. Brooks can get letters from his loved ones. I don't know why he did this. I told you that. But actions define a person. It's that simple. You can stand with the Bible in your hands all day long and profess to be the finest man under God that you can be. But when you drive through a parade route and roll over children with band instruments to the extent that your vehicle heaves up and down, your intent is known, Mr. Brooks. It doesn't have to be guessed. It's known. You don't have to stand and wonder as he claims to. For him to keep going after he drove over those children in the band and have Jackson Sparks fly off the front hood of his car, lifeless, and keep going. And have Jane Kulik fly off the hood of his car, run her over, and keep going. I'm not going to go on. You get it. You need to look in the mirror, Mr. Brooks. If you want to accuse me of practicing my closing argument, you need to look in the mirror, sir. Your actions are that of a murderer. You murdered these 6 people. You endangered the safety of 61 others. There are 68 victims in this case, folks. That's not an accident. That's not a, gee, I woke up one day and don't know how I found myself in this position. If you have some explaining to do to your children, Mr. Brooks, I recommend you do it.
Good. Simple, to the point, just cleaning up what he said, which just wasn't much. Like I said, it was nonsense.
Objection.
And he has to object at the end. What are you objecting to?
Now, members of the jury, the duties of the parties and the court have been performed. The case has been argued by the parties. The court has instructed you regarding the rules of law which should govern you in your deliberations. The following 76 forms of verdict will be submitted to you concerning the charges against the defendant, Darrell E. Brooks. After you have reached a verdict, the presiding juror will notify the bailiff that a verdict has been reached. Everyone will return to the courtroom. The verdicts will be read into the record in open court. The court may ask each of you if you agree with the verdicts. All right, and here are the jury instructions as well. For the record, it's 6:24. All rise for the jury as they're excused to begin their deliberations.
All right, we finally did it. We finally got done with the trial. Now it's up to the jury to decide. But there's still one thing that we need to address, and we're gonna see that next episode. Thank you guys for watching. Please, please, please give it a like if you made it this far. Comment on the video. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Have a great day. Bye-bye.